This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petronovitch.
And I'm Kelley Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. Well, hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining us for another conversation this week. Taylor, how are you?
I am doing so great. I'm just coming off of filming a few weddings in a row, which for me, I don't feel like I have that often. So I kept my youngest, she's almost 3. Her name is Katie. I kept her home on Monday to just hang out with me, which was really nice. And a little bit of extra family time. And then actually tonight we have a fire pit rented at one of our local pumpkin patches. It's like a pumpkin patch Disneyland though, like for real. It's like there's a train and rides and like a carousel and a zip line, like all this like crazy stuff for the kids. They love it. But every year, like in the pumpkin patch, they have these like fire pits with like picnic tables and all this stuff. There's probably 100 different fire pits that you can rent.
Gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't know, $150 to like rent it for like the evening. And then some of the nights, like on Fridays and Saturdays, they have like a big like drop down like projector screen, and they'll do like movies or they'll do like concerts and things like that. We kind of got stuck with like a lame night. Like there's no fun event going on tonight, but it's so competitive just to get any fire pit that I was like, fine, I'll take it on a random Thursday.
That sounds fun. It sounds like you're really getting into the festivities of fall. And yeah, you've had a really busy September and October. Here we are sitting in October 2024, and our years have kind of been like, our year has been a little bit switched. Like I was super heavy in like May, June, July, a little bit before earlier on in the year. And then you're kind of like more that back half, like heavier.
Yeah, it's so funny how that works out sometimes. Like no 2 years I feel like are the same either.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you guys
That's so
doing?
fun. We're good. We are picking up a little bit more corporate work in like this middle of October off of a like 3-week break, which has been incredible. And then we actually end 2024 with a pretty heavy November. So we have 3 in November, and then none in December so far. We'll see. In the luxury world, events book really last minute, as Taylor knows. Last Saturday, she shot a wedding that they booked like literally like 12 hours in advance. They signed the contract.
Yeah, you guys, the palms were sweating a little bit on that one until that contract was like signed, but it all worked out and it was beautiful and I was happy to be there. So,
That is so great. Well, we are happy that you're here too as our listeners. And I want to start off this episode with a listener review who is Matt Shamlu. He said, whenever I listen to a podcast about growth and education, there is usually one question that isn't answered or something I still want to learn. Listening to this podcast always gives me the light bulb reaction. As a creative and business owner, some of our needs are certainty and growth, and this is definitely one that feeds into both. Highly recommend at all levels. Thanks so much, Matt.
aw,
I love
that's so
hearing from you
sweet.
guys. Yeah. We've been loving like giving some shout outs to our faithful listeners. So if you want a little shout out on the podcast, go ahead and leave us a review, and we would be so happy to read your kind words. And yeah. So Taylor,
Yeah,
what's on the agenda for today? We are still in our Sip and Tell series.
we are sipping, we are telling, and today I feel like is a little bit of a juicier episode. If you're into watching dramas or you just live for like kind of hearing what's going on in other people's worlds, that can be challenging. I feel like this is the episode for you. But even if you're not into the whole drama thing, I think this is going to be one where you're going to learn a lot on how to navigate things that may not be so fun in our businesses, but things that we all run into, because today we're going to be talking about unhappy clients or some
Yeah.
of those situations where they can just be really challenging to deal with overall. I feel like we say a lot on this podcast that as photographers, as filmmakers, like, of course, we're artists and we produce really beautiful imagery for our clients to remember their wedding by for the decades to come. And that's all amazing. But we are truly in the business of hospitality that I think a lot of people forget. And that means that people should be our number one priority in keeping our clients happy and well taken care of. And sometimes they don't feel that way, and we need to fix the situation.
Yes, this is always a tricky thing. And I feel like in the beginning years of my business, so this is our 14th year, in the beginning years of business, I was terrified of unhappy clients. We were navigating a new business, a new industry that we didn't really know much about. We didn't really know what would make our clients happy rather than just the end product. I feel like we didn't think of happy clients as part of the booking process and the pre wedding process and the wedding day process. Like all of the eggs in my mind were thrown into the product, or if you're a photographer, the gallery. Everything was thrown into that. And the weight that that carried on me was so heavy. And I will say, in those beginning years, I learned a lot of lessons and I had some tough clients. Taylor, what about you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that I think is especially true in the budget market is it's so interesting. So, the less money somebody spends on their photographer or videographer, the more money it feels to that client, right? So, like, if you look at like the client's net worth versus like how much they're spending on you, even if it's just $1,500, like that's such a huge percentage of their net worth. So, it's so hard for them to let go of. And usually, people who function in that market inherently feel a slight sense of distrust, like distrust in people, distrust in products, in services, and like all the things. And so, because of that, like they know that you get what you pay for, right? So I
Hmm.
think that's true. And so they can be a little bit more micromanagey, a little bit more asking for more revisions, a little bit
Yeah.
more controlling in that way. And but it's kind of nice because as you grow, even if like a photographer or filmmaker is getting paid like $25,000 for a wedding, like it's a very small percentage of that client's net worth. And like they know that they can trust the people. So I feel like it gets easier as you grow. So I feel like for a lot of these like photographers, filmmakers, there's so much turnover in our industry. And I feel like a lot of the hard days with clients kind of happens luckily towards the beginning and then you can kind of get
Yeah.
past it.
Yes,
Um,
I remember meeting a photographer who's a good friend of mine still, and he had already been in the industry for like 6 years when we had finished our first year. And I remember we were at like a get together, a dinner, and I was like, we're 1 year officially in business, and he said, "Congratulations, you just finished your hardest year." And it really was true. Now looking back, like over a decade later, those first 3 years were tough sometimes to make those budget clients happy. It's hard because, like you
mhm.
said, there's just so much more skin in the game. It's more of a financial investment for them where they feel so emotionally tied to that money. And also, like I liked what you said too. They're kind of a little bit more weary of like professionals working for them because I think that they're used to, like, DIYing more things in their own lives, right? They're remodeling
Yes.
their own bathrooms. They're not hiring out, like, people. They're, like, a little distrusting of, like, "Oh, I can do it. I can do it." Like, they're like, "I can just do that. I'll just learn this on YouTube. I'll whatever." Or they're, like, detailing their own car, or I don't know what else they're doing. There's, like, so many other things that you, like, DIY. Like, Paul and I do all those same things too, but, like, we understand when is the right time to hire a professional and to trust them for their expertise. So, that's just kind of a missed mark, I think, with clients that are in more of that budget and mainstream market is they're distrusting. But how can we get ahead of that, Taylor? If someone's listening and they're like, "Well, I'm still in the budget market and it still feels hard. How can you help me navigate this?"
I feel like there's a few things, and the number one thing is it always comes down to communication. I feel like laying out your expectations of the client, laying out what they can expect of you, and just really over communicate through that initial inquiry process, through the booking process, like all of those things, so that it's kind of hand holding in the beginning. I feel like, especially for like troublesome clients, is they need to feel that sense of comfort by the all the communicating, and then it will make it to where less things will slip through the cracks. So, for
Yeah.
example, like I think that maybe photographers run into this less frequently, but as videographers, I think that there's so many um, ways we can deliver our products. You know what I mean? And so there can be misunderstanding with what they will be receiving in the end.
Mhm.
And maybe it can come down to that was never properly communicated. So let's say a client should be just getting a 5-minute highlight film. Actually, so I had this happen. This is story time. So this is not a budget client. This is like 2 years ago. This is probably like $1 million plus wedding, a little bit of a high profile one. And I was booked very last minute, like 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out or something. And it was all communication through the planner. And I'm pretty sure this client just wanted a videographer at the end. They're like, let's just tack it on, whatever, it's fine. Um, and I don't think they like read the contract or understood what they were getting because at the end, all they were contracted for, it was like 2 full days of coverage and then like a highlight film. That's like what I quoted them. That's what was in the contract. Like on my end, it was so like T's were crossed, I's were dotted, but I think it was overlooked on their end. And so I deliver the film to the client and I get a response back from the groom saying like, this was so great. This was so fun to watch. Like, can't wait to see the rest. And
Oh,
I'm
shoot.
like, uh,
This is the rest.
this is the rest. This is all you you like paid for and contracted for. And so I very politely like pointed out, like I literally like resent like the PDF of the contract with like the bits highlighted of where they were um where it communicated what they would be receiving. And then I sent them like basically a proposal for more. And
Okay,
they
that's yes.
go ahead.
Okay, keep going, and we'll go back to
Okay.
it.
Okay, yeah, so and they were just like, "Yeah, whatever. Okay, fine." And so they wanted everything else. They wanted, basically everything I have to offer, they wanted it. And so I sent them an invoice, and then within, like, 3 weeks, I delivered it all. But it's like, I feel like some people could get defensive in that situation, or they could feel bad and just give it for free when it was not contracted. There's
Mhm.
lots of things, but I feel like professionalism and communication goes so far.
Yes, and you did something really key that I think is something that we can all learn from is that whenever there is a sticky situation like that and you're like, "Oh shoot," just know that we're not coming back to the client and you're not just delivering that agreement to them being like, "Nope, this is what you pay for, here you go." But you followed up with an option for like mediation basically, for them to find a way of like, I can offer you this because this is what we've been contracted for, but here's what I can also offer you moving forward. So that's something that I didn't understand in the beginning of my business is that it's not just saying no, it's saying, here's the scope of work, here's what I can provide to you, or here's what I'm providing to you given the scope of work, but here's also what I can provide to you if you'd like to add that on in some way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just think that like we've had various things as well where we actually just had this recently. A wedding that we had a few months ago, mother of the bride arrived in the inbox, sweetest human ever, and she was like, "I was actually just reviewing the contract and I realized we're only getting a 5 to 7 minute film. Is there anything else that we can receive in addition to this?" So they were getting full ceremony, full toast, and a 5 to 7 minute film. And I said, "Yes, we would be more than happy to put together a full length film for you that roughly spans around 13 to 15 minutes." She's like, "Great, we would like that. And we would also like the full dances of first dance, father, daughter, mother, son." Now, that isn't generally a item that I offer. Like, it's not one of my additional offerings, but I'm happy to put that together for them. So I put together an invoice for the extended length of film. And then honestly, though, it's kind of also just giving the client like what they're asking for and what they want. So they wanted the 1 minute teaser, they still wanted the 5 to 7 minute film, and then they also wanted the 13 to 15 minute film. And in my mind, I'm like, a 13-15 minute film with a 5 to 7 minute film, there's not a lot of difference in that. Like, there's more
More toast.
toast. There's more toast. Where like there's more longer lengths of the vows through there, but like in general, the B-roll kind of is all the same. But I'm not going to try to like bog them down with all those details. I've kind of just learned in my business that like they kind of know what they want. And I'm just like, great, I'll do that for you. And so I made that 5 to 7 minute film more on the 5 minute side. And then I actually over delivered by delivering them a 16.5 minute film. So just keeping everybody happy is always great. We love, clients that are returning clients. We have a lot of legacy clients that we work for. And I think that a real reason why is because of how we take care of our clients and that overall client experience and keeping them happy.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't feel like I need to know the reasons why somebody wants something, like, and it may not make sense to me, but, like, they have their own reasoning that's none of my business, and so my default is just like, "Sure." If you're willing to add that on to your collection and pay for it, then I'm happy to do that for you, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes it's just for the sake of them, like, having it, I think sometimes, like, archival purposes in my eyes, like, um okay, so sticky situations. Let's like maybe categorize these because I feel like there's like a few different types of like unhappy clients or things where we need to kind of maneuver gracefully. And I feel
Yeah.
like it can happen like pre-wedding, on the wedding day, or like upon delivery, right? So it's like unhappy clients, I would say when it comes to the pre-wedding, it's probably in the realm of like negotiating the contract, right?
Mhm.
Do we want to like kind of talk about some of those things first?
Yeah. So I think one thing that's really important for you to pinpoint is in your contract, if you have spots in your contract where time and time again a prospective client is coming to you and saying, I have questions about this specific clause, or I have questions about, can we make an adjustment on this? I think that's a pretty clear indication that I think the contract needs to be relooked at. And
Mhm.
so we've done that in the past. I would say the number one thing that clients at this level are highlighting is an NDA portion or a partial NDA, and we are more than happy to make adjustments to that.
Mhm.
Gone are the days, honestly, of everyone signing a, standard contract.
Yeah,
They're
the
kind
cookie
of
cutter
more
days are gone.
the cookie cutter days are gone of like, here is the contract that all of my clients sign. And if you don't like it, goodbye. There needs to be a level of flexibility.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's something that I've learned to deal with too. I've learned that contract negotiations are not a red flag of a client, actually. Um, there's lots of other red flags that I could probably talk about, but contracts actually aren't one of them. And 2021 Kelley or 2011 Kelley didn't really get that. And I didn't have like a strong enough contract. I was kind of
Mm.
DIYing my contract.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's rare for a client to not at least request a single revision on a contract. And I wouldn't call that unhappy. I would call them like them making sure they get what they need, or like walk away feeling content with the overall agreement, right? So mine's the same as you. It's like, I mean, I do a lot of NDAs, which is fine. In full disclosure, I don't charge for those. I just think that that's like the client's right to privacy if I'm charging my full rate, especially, right? But I do a lot of contract alterations where they want basically like to approve footage before it's shared online. Like I need, so a lot of times it's like they will require written approval for every like clip. So in which case, like I deliver like a longer teaser, and like ask for approval, and then now I have like a minute and 30 seconds worth of like clips that I can like rework in like different configurations to share, you
Yeah.
know? So I try to like,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be bogging them down afterwards. Like, can I please share this? Can I please share this? You know?
Absolutely. And the same
Hmm.
thing goes for a photographer too. Like, there's
Yeah.
going to be times where a client's going to request which images can be shared. Don't bother the client with asking individually if you can share each individual photo. You deliver the gallery and say, please let me know from this, grouping of images, which are okay for me to post for future, you know, social media purposes or whatever it could be.
Yeah.
Um, so Yeah. And then you have, and those are the ones you have. You have those 20 images maybe that you can like share and reshare and all that stuff. So, okay, so contract things with an unhappy client. Um, what about like, ooh, before the wedding day process? I'm going to
Mhm.
actually speak to this more on the photographer standpoint because as filmmakers, we have less and less communication with the client up front. Um,
Yeah.
so photographers, let's look at this. What if you receive a family shot list that's like a million groupings and so many different variations and so much stuff. And you're like, dude, this is going to take a full hour to go through all of these. Um, what is your best recommendation there, Taylor?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would say let's indicate which ones are your most important to have this like formal set of images with these people. And then if we have flexibility in the timeline, maybe we can rearrange things. So, like, maybe they weren't planning on doing a first look, and this is a really great chance to educate them on what a first look will allow them to do in terms of like the timeline. We all know that when they don't do a first look and you can't do any of those portraits, like that cocktail hour just gets eaten up and like time is so finite. But I feel like the first look really opens the day up, getting all those done before the wedding or the ceremony. So I feel like that's number one. And if you've maximized any flexibility you have with the timeline, I would say offering to pull people aside during the reception and having like less formal portraits. I feel like that's a really common practice when the groupings get a little out of control. And I feel like most clients, if they're like an understanding person and can like, recognize logic when they're seeing it, they would agree to that. Um, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to, like, they just don't understand. They don't understand that it takes so much time to, like, basically herd kittens. Like, you have, like, Uncle Bob wandering away, you have the kids, like, spilling things, you have grandma who is, kind of immobile and really hard to, like,
Hmm.
place in the you know what I mean? So it's like, when you're working with so many people, like, it takes so long for each of those groupings, and I feel like that's an education point, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then I would also go back on that is an education point, educating them. This list is great. In my experience, I think that it is so crucial. I heard early on in my career to always, when you're going to educate a client, you begin with in my experience, in my professional experience, that type of thing. So in my experience, a list of this length will generally take about 75 minutes to complete. If you are open to 75 minutes of family formals, I'm absolutely willing to do this for you. It's going to mean that your portrait time is going to be after sunset, whereas I'm going to need to shoot those in the dark. Just laying things out. They may not care. They may be like, these family photos are like what I want. I want this. And I think you just kind of have to go with it and listen to what the client is. But if you've put your best foot forward in educating them, that is so crucial to a client being so much more happy on the back end, because you have that like in writing too. So that's
Yeah.
something that like you can lean on and have that in your back pocket in case, you know, they come
They're
back and
unhappy
they're
that you missed
like
something.
they unhappy. It's like I told you. And I think also like you said, then offering a resolution.
Mhm.
What how are we gonna find a common ground that's going to give them some beautiful portraits, not like they're gonna be so tired. They just don't know yet that they're gonna be so tired and the bride's feet are gonna be hurting and she's gonna wanna sit down and all that stuff. Also asking them like, do you envision on joining your guests for cocktail hour? Because if we execute this full list, the likelihood of you joining for a cocktail hour is not going to happen. So kind of giving some give or take there. Always educating them. Of course, there's many times where you can just say, "Yes, I can do this for you, but it's going to be at this cost. It's going to be the cost of you maybe having portraits in the dark," just as an example, or you not being able to enjoy cocktail hour with your guests like you had envisioned. So, education first, offering a resolution, right? Am I using that
Mhm.
right? Resolution? Yeah? It's so funny, Taylor, you put up a reel a couple days ago, and I'm like, "I know that I'm tired with my 4-month-old, but I looked super tired." Like, those bags were bagging that
What do you
day.
mean? You look beautiful every day.
No, it was it was bleak. But anyways,
Aw. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so many ways we kinda have to be flexible, and it can be annoying to be real, but, like, I think it's worth it, and that's kind of what we're being compensated for, is to be problem solvers on the fly. I think that, like, another one would be, like, maybe okay, so Kelley and I, a lot of our advice to people is very against the grain of what a lot of mainstream educators out there teach. So, for example, we would prefer for our students to not offer anything less than 8 hours of coverage on a wedding day. That's just what
mhm.
we recommend. We have a laundry list of reasons why. We're not going to get into it here, but that's what we recommend. And so, if you book a wedding for 6 hours, the timeline comes back. It looks like it's a truly an 8 hour job. And then now you are put in the position where you have to sell them on 2 more hours or be the one to tell them, I'm so sorry, but like I'm not going to be there to cover those things. And if you're a people pleaser, you would probably end up doing it for free. And then that's not fair necessarily to you, especially if that was like already in the timeline and it wasn't like, oops, we went over, you know? So
Mhm.
I feel like that's a sticky situation that people have to navigate is like how to like upsell on hours, things like that. And there's just graceful ways to navigate that. And I feel like at the end of the day, finding the line between being like a business owner and being like somebody who is in a world of hospitality, you have to find like some balance there, and not get walked all over, but also like realize that like we're dealing with people too. I think it's like it hangs in the balance. You know what I mean? Let's dive into like wedding day stuff. So like unhappy clients. I feel like when you walk into the bridal suite, you can immediately get a read on the energy. And sometimes an unhappy client has nothing to do with you. Sometimes an unhappy client is unhappy because of family or friend dynamics, because the decor or the florals doesn't look the way they wanted them to, because the makeup artist poked them in the eye. Just kidding, I don't actually know. Um, but Kelley, how would you like if somebody is like maybe a bride specifically is looking like a little unsettled, flustered, angry? Like, how do you approach that as like beginning your coverage?
I give space,
Hmm.
honestly. I give space. I think there is so emotions run so high in that getting ready room. I would say more than any other part of the day. When you enter into that suite where they're getting ready or that house that they're getting ready in, that's where you're going to more than likely walk into the highest like peak of emotions on the wedding day. Then it all starts to kind of like calm down from there, I would say, especially after a first look. That's why I'm such a huge advocate for a first look, is because, like, I don't know if you've seen it, but like clients, just like the minute that they see each other, it's like all of that stress and anxiety just melts away. And they're almost like
Yeah.
different people.
It's
So,
like a collective exhale. Like everyone is more relaxed after.
absolutely. Yeah. So I give space. Like that's a
Yeah.
really good time for me to just like read the room, read the situation, and try not to like love bomb them at that point. It's just
Mm,
not the time. The love bombing time can be like during portraits when people are a little bit more relaxed and you can like serve them in that way and get to know them on a less anxiety level. And so I like to give space and go scout alongside the photographer. A lot of times we can give a little glance to each other across the room and we both understand the assignment of like let's get out of here, because photo
mhm.
and video, honestly, when we walk into the room, we're only adding to that stress and anxiety. As much as we don't want to, it makes it so much more real for the client. And now they're kind of expecting in their mind that they have to like perform for the camera. And if they're not feeling their best, or if there's a myriad of other reasons where they're just feeling sad or stressed out, our cameras are going to make it 10 times worse. So
Yeah. That's a
just
good
give
point.
space.
I think, like I think people, um, who have, like, a really acute sense of, like, self or, like, self-awareness, I feel like really thrive in being able to navigate these kinds of things, and that's generally where you'll probably get the comments of, like, "You were so lovely to work with," like, "You made situations easier," things like that. Um And then for those of you who maybe self-awareness is not something that comes, like, quite as second nature or quite as naturally, it's, like, something we should definitely work on, where entering the room, like, loudly and boisterously, like, "Here I am," or, like, you know what I mean? Those big energy, kind of people who are not able to identify when it's appropriate to, like, have that energy and versus where maybe you gotta dial it back a few notches, like, I feel like by honing that skill, you're going to honestly grow really fast because you're going to become, like, more your reputation of being really great to work with will, like, improve over time. Does that make sense? So I feel like a lot of people feel like branding is all about, like, what's online, like logo, website, but really, like, your brand is yourself too, and if you are you may if you if you, like, give people hives because, like, you walked into a moment where, like, the bride's crying because maybe she lost her dad 3 months ago and you're, like, loud and boisterous, like, that's not gonna be great for anybody involved. So, yeah, I just feel like taking a little, like, temperature check before you fully enter
Yeah.
is wise.
Yeah. Also, a little quick tip is that if you're working with a planner, I like to I like to do my whole we talk about with our mastermind students, our whole like get to the wedding day workflow and what we recommend. And so one little piece of that is checking in with the wedding planner. And a lot of times too, I can kind of say like, how's the weekend been? How's everyone been? I don't ask like, is the bride in good spirits? And nothing like that. I just kind of like I just open it up to how is everyone doing? How was rehearsal dinner last night? How's this morning been? And a lot of times if they feel like it's a need to know basis for me and they need to fill me in that mother of the bride is a little on edge, you know, put your best foot forward there, then I know walking into it what I'm going into. So you can kind of like before you walk into that room, you can get a good gauge from the planner too, which is another
Yeah.
reason why planner relationships are so, so great, you guys.
Oh, 100%. They're just gonna be your biggest advocate and, like, a true team member on the wedding day, I feel like, and the dynamic having one is unparalleled. Like, I feel like it should be on everyone's, like, bingo card for 2025 is, like, make sure you're working with the planner more often than not because it's a game changer. One more thing maybe on the wedding day, and then maybe we could talk about, like, after the wedding and delivery unhappiness, but I feel like a lot of uneasiness can come from brides when the timeline is running late. And this can go anywhere from during that bride prep, like she's getting her dress on an hour late, through like up to like the ceremony or like toast or whatever. Like those more type A brides who are like, they want to know what time it is, they want to know if we're on time. Those are probably more they more frequently will get frazzled if they feel like they're running late. So for you, Kelly, if a bride is like very visibly like in distress about the timeline running behind, what is your approach on that?
First of all, I never tell them what time it is, ever. They go, "What time is it?" I said, "Oh, we're great. We're okay." Never. I never say back, "Oh, it's 12:30." Well, because they know the timeline and they're like, "Well, I was supposed to be in my dress 30 minutes ago," like whatever. But there is a time and there has been times where things have run really, really, really behind. And it's another reading of the room of the situation. Like, why are we behind? Are we behind because maybe hair and makeup wasn't quite prepared like they should be? Are we behind because the bride's zipper broke on her dress? And that's super stressful. We've had that situation before. And when that happens, I just exit the premise of the room and I let everyone have more space. I really don't want to ever be present in a situation where there is conflict if it's not relating to me, because I don't want them to think about that conflict and picture me being there. I want to separate myself and give space. And like, if it's not something that pertains to me, I don't really need to be there, like eavesdropping in or whatever. I'll just go ahead and like excuse myself, give some space, check in as I can. But yeah, I will, but if we are running really, really behind, I think the good thing as a filmmaker is that this is something that's more led by the photographer. The photographer really is more of the leader on the wedding day. And that's
Mhm.
why I love being a filmmaker too, because I can partner with them, but I'm not necessarily the one that's calling all the shots. So I don't know. What about you, Taylor?
Yeah, same. I mean, I feel like I feel like just saying, like, "It's totally fine," like, we like, even if they were like, they know we're behind, it's like, "Oh, no, like, we had so much padding in the timeline. It was, like,
Yes.
created for this. Like,
Yes.
we anticipate these moments
Even if
before
it
the
wasn't.
wedding day." Yeah, and then, honestly, like, when you get that unicorn wedding where, like, everything truly is on time, and
Yeah.
I'm, like, kind of vocal about that too. I'm like, "We are, like, so perfectly on time, Sarah.
Yeah.
This never happens. Like, your day is running so perfectly." Like, I kinda like
Yeah.
to, like, let them know that, like, you guys did a great job. Your bridesmaids did not drag their heels when it came to, like, getting their dresses on or whatever it may be. I don't know. I like giving the kudos if the bride's personality kind of, like, jives with that. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
like, there's some where I would never say anything like that, but some
Yeah.
where, like, you have a little bit of a rapport, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into unhappy clients with their imagery. So you delivered that sneak peek or the gallery or the film, and they come back and they're like, "What the hell is this?" Just kidding. they they are not happy with some or all of it. How are we navigating that?
I truly believe that all of us are going to go through this in our business, and don't look at it as something where you failed. Truly look at it as a learning opportunity. When you
Mhm.
deliver those teasers and they felt like something was missing in the teaser or they felt like something was missing in the gallery, use that as a mental note of like, okay, that's of importance, like for brides and for grooms. I've definitely made note of that. If they complained that their grandma wasn't a part of the film as much, it's like, you better believe that, like, now moving forward, I'm gonna be, like, seeking out grandma to try to get shots of her wherever I can, at the ceremony, at cocktail hour, on the dance floor, things like that. I think that instead of taking this as a prideful, like, "I'm an artist, what I say goes," like you said, Taylor, we are in the business of hospitality, and so learning from those experiences where people are unhappy is something that it's a hard pill to swallow in the moment, but it truly is an area where we can all grow from.
I agree. And I think everyone needs to be checked every once in a while too. And like that's not a bad thing. Like it's truly it can be transformative. And because it may be true that like multiple clients have felt that way and this is just the first one to voice it. So it's kind of like a great opportunity to like revamp like your processes or how you approach things. Can we talk for a minute? Kelley, I am more chronically online than you are, especially on TikTok. But do you remember like a few months ago, there was a bride who hired a photographer who I think her work was gorgeous.
Oh,
But she was doing like the
is this
sepia.
Sepia Gate?
Yes.
Did you
Okay.
see that she's getting divorced now?
Yes. So,
Wild.
okay, for those of you who are not on TikTok and, like, are not, aware of all of this, do you wanna give a little backstory or do you want me to?
Um, okay, so yes. Sorry, I got a text from Paul about a really happy client with a raving review.
Aw, yay.
Yeah, he said actually, what did he say? Oh, there was a film that we put together that, it was like okay. And I kept telling Paul, I'm like, oh, this one's like just okay or whatever. And he said, proof that even though you may not feel the best about the film, the couple will always think it's the best thing they've ever seen. Great job. And then he screenshot their email. So sweet.
Aw.
Um, which is so true, you guys. Okay, so yeah, so she got her gallery back and she felt like there was like sepia. How do you pronounce it, you guys?
I have no idea. I would have to go to the Google for that one. But I
Okay.
think, like, that brown, it's brown, right?
Yeah, like
Like,
kind of
yeah.
that brown overlayer over her film. And she was so upset. And there was like this whole thing going, and then people were saying podcasts about it, and then there was like it was a whole thing. So where are you going with this, Taylor?
I want to talk about how gracefully the photographer navigated this.
Yeah.
So this bride is like dragging this photographer through the mud on TikTok, like very publicly shaming the photographer, like very publicly unhappy. And I feel like that's probably like the worst case scenario of like anything that could possibly happen to us, is like your name, like your name being tarnished in like this public arena of social media where everyone across the world can see it. And it got a lot of reach. And the photographer really only responded like a couple times, like publicly,
Mhm.
basically like saying like in my contract it says that you have to like review like my work, and like by signing you like agree that like this is the style that you are agreeing to. And my contract says the same thing. It says like client has agreed that they have thoroughly reviewed videographer's work and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Because like, I feel like that's an important clause to have. So they
Yes.
did. And this was like how the photographer, like this was just her editing style. Like all of her work looked that way. So I don't really understand what the what the client was expecting.
Yeah.
But she basically like laid out the facts and was just like publicly like addressed it like a couple of times and then like let it go and then continued just like posting her work. And I just have to say, like, she navigated it with such grace, where I think that so many people could, react in different ways. Like you could argue, like get into these like public arguments, or you could argue over email and then at risk of like screenshots being like posted. This bride obviously like wanted to take it to this like public public like platform to like complain, right?
Yeah.
Or she could have like hidden like her tail between her legs and ran away and like deleted her TikTok account to like try to like vanish from like the TikTok sphere, which she also didn't. Like I feel like she like held firm. Anyway, so I just want to bring light to that. Like she navigated it really, really beautifully. And then yeah, I mean, you said this before, but like, and now this bride's getting divorced. So like there's people making videos about like this situation. And it's like hurt people, like she was probably
Yeah.
just like unhappy and was taking it out on the photographer. Like,
Right. Which is a really great point to make, because if you are in a situation where a client is really going after you, or they're super unhappy about the gallery that was delivered or the teaser that was delivered to them or whatever it may be, please know that they don't just have a problem with you. It's generally, in my experience, I love using that phrase. In my experience, when I've had a client that has been that way, they have been that way with all of the vendors. So,
yeah.
like Taylor said, hurt people hurt people. And remember that, enter it as gracefully as you can. Always tell the client that like you hear them and you understand their concerns, or you understand their frustration, or whatever it may be. It's so wise that when you get that dreaded email in your inbox of someone being unhappy, please give it space for you to like a day or two at least, to like, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not more than 2 days, because then the client thinks you're ghosting them, but don't
Don't
respond back
respond in the
within.
moment. Yeah.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah, when your emotions are on high and you're probably like, there's so many times where Paul and I've gotten an email in the beginning years like that, and we'll just like fester in the kitchen while we're making dinner about like, well, they're mad because of this, but actually it was due to this on the wedding day that they didn't see. And like, you could totally go into like blame mode on things, but please don't do that. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Wait for the emotions to dissipate and respond when you're like all of your cognitive powers are like restored and you're not just like flying off the handle.
Yeah.
Um Hopefully this has like been helpful for you guys. I know that as business owners we like to believe that it's all rainbows and butterflies and sunshine all the time, but that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Really quickly though, I want to get in, we've been trying to do these like listener questions of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Every episode, and so I have some pulled up. But before I get to it, this listener question of the day segment is sponsored by our course, The Luxury Framework. If you guys have not heard yet, this is our baby. This is like our favorite thing that we have brought to the industry, that now like well over, I don't know, like 130 people have gone through, and it has been so transformative for photographers and filmmakers in the industry. If you are currently serving the mainstream market, so basically, if you are charging like under $9,000, our course is really meant to help you propel your business into the luxury market. We have modules based all on branding, social media, creating relationships with wedding planners, navigating the wedding day and workflows in that way, pricing and proposals, like all of the business things that you need to know, stepping from the mainstream into the luxury market, we cover in the course. And we have a lot of big plans for this course in the future. So we would love to invite you to join. the truth is that 2025 is just around the corner, which means booking season is upon us. And if you can really get the jump on all the business things for your business heading into 2025, you could have a much more profitable and better year overall next year. So we just want to encourage you to hop in. You can find the link to enroll at thelevelupco.com/the luxury framework. And if you hop in, send us a DM and let us know that you joined, and we would love to cheer you on along your journey. But Kelley, are you ready for today's question?
Yeah, come at me. I have no idea what it is. We didn't talk about this.
Okay, this is going to be a loaded question.
Okay.
Okay. What are the steps to take for a successful business as a wedding photographer or videographer? I'll put that. So, what are things you need to do? What are steps you need to take to build a successful business?
Patience, flexibility, a clear understanding of your ideal client, and a plan in place. I think
Yeah,
too often photographers just start their business with no plan in place, with no, you know, I don't know, no
no
roadmap,
strategy.
no
Hmm.
strategy, no roadmap, no vision for where they want to go. And so I think that that is so, so true. Okay, so I'm going to give a shout out. I don't know if she's listening over the podcast, but if she is, Christina Adams. She's a wonderful photographer. She came from the corporate world. She is actually so smart. She graduated from Harvard. Fun
Oh,
fact.
wow.
Yeah, so she's so, so smart. She had an amazing career in the corporate world, and she left the corporate world to become a wedding photographer. And she propelled her business so, so quickly because she left the corporate world understanding things like what it means to network, what it means to have clear marketing, what it means to have a brand that is in alignment with your ideal client. She knew who her ideal client was before she even shot her first wedding. All of those things were things that propelled her business forward, like I said, in being able to charge rates within 3 years that many photographers can never feel like they can even reach because they don't put those in place first.
And luckily for you guys, those are all things we cover in our course. So you don't have to figure out alone, or you don't have to go spend a decade in the corporate world in order to gain that understanding. Um, yeah, I think the key is understanding that other people's success proves that they have a replicable you can replicate their strategy. You can replicate the steps they took in order to reach that success. And so that's why Kelley and I created the luxury framework, is so that you can go follow this proven strategy that has worked for like dozens and dozens and dozens of photographers and filmmakers and see success for your own business. Um
Love it. So
yeah.
true. Love this course. It's no fluff, all business. It's amazing. Okay, so, to end this out, how to deal with unhappy clients. It happens. It can, put a mark on our ego. It can leave us feeling disheartened and frustrated. But I want you to know that Taylor and I have gone through it too. Everybody has had unhappy clients in their career. It's a normal part of the process, but really take it as a learning opportunity, a way to educate yourselves and find that way to serve clients moving forward. And truly, 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 you'll have less and less unhappy clients as you scale into the luxury market, which is our main goal for all of our listeners because it truly is just a beautiful space to be able to excel as an artist and have the trust backed behind you with the clients that hire you. Anything else, Taylor?
No, I mean, I think that sums it up perfectly. It's unavoidable, but it's going to become less frequent the higher you climb in the industry, because these clients just trust you more and they're more easygoing, which we love.
We love it.
um, so I hope you guys are enjoying the Sip and Tell series. Kelley and I have definitely been enjoying just kind of getting down and dirty in conversations with you guys. Let us know on Instagram if you are enjoying it so far, and we'll keep the ball rolling. You can follow us on Instagram at the Level Up Co. Join our Facebook group. It'll be linked in the description box and in the show notes. all the things. Connect with us everywhere, and we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.